Want to know the latest in soccer? Then listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast. From MLS, the World Cup, and the Premier League, we've got you covered. The latest updates, the hottest matches, and news on the league's top players. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast.
David Beckham scores a goal to take England all the way to the World Cup finals.
Listen now.
Hey there, and welcome in to the GSMC Soccer Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Day late for the Monday show. Why? Well, I record in my apartment in Chicago, the great city of Chicago. I usually don't say the state Chicago's in because everybody pretty much knows it. It's like a country all to itself. As soon as I sat down to do this podcast, well, my neighbors started drilling into the wall. And, yeah, it's tough to do a podcast when you have zzz, zzz, zzz. It's not a good look, right? So we waited a day. We're here. We're ready to go. We still have the exact same topics that we were going to talk about. A recap of the weekend in the Premier League. Tottenham-Liverpool, the big game. We talked about it on the last podcast. We'll dive into what happened in the 1-0 Liverpool victory, what that match means moving forward in the Premier League. Real Madrid, they won the Super Cup in Saudi Arabia in penalties, 4-1 in penalties. We'll go over what that win means for Real Madrid in their pursuit of a La Liga title, and in the Champions League, they have their eyes on a very interesting transfer that could make some waves and could shift two of the top 5 leagues in the world right now. We'll dive into that. Also, LA Galaxy, they're on the hunt for a new striker after losing Zlatan Ibrahimovic. They finished mid-table Western Conference, competed in the playoffs. We'll see who they're going to add. We'll get into that later in the show. But where I wanted to start, as we started on a couple of these shows, is with the United States men's national team. Big news over the weekend. Former U.S. men's national team player Brian Mcbride has been named general manager of the United States men's national team program, meaning he will decide the hiring and firing of coaches, and he's responsible with working with players to try to convince them to join the United States. He's responsible for working with clubs all around the world to make sure that their players are taken care of, that their players are properly introduced to the international breaks. He's responsible basically for the face and the feeling and the organization of United States soccer. It's a very important role Brian Mcbride is filling. It's a less important role than general managers in other sports because he has a board of directors and Ernie Stewart still to report to. So there's still, it's a big move, but it isn't a earth-shattering, he's going to change things move. It kind of puts a face to this new movement of the United States men's national team. And Brian Mcbride, just go through his experience. We want to start. He started with the Milwaukee Rampage in the United States way back in 1994, moved to the Bundesliga, played for Wolfsburg, came back for the Columbus Crew in their debut in the MLS. Spent some time on loan at Preston North End and Everton, played at Fulham, played for the Chicago Fire, played for Wembley. He has experience in a lot of leagues all around the world. He has experience at the lower levels of United States football. He grew up in the United States. So in terms of background, in terms of what you want to see, the type of person you want in this role, at least in background, before you get into any coaching things, it's probably Brian Mcbride, right? You have a mix of experiences. You have a mix of relationships, a mix of different cultures and languages that he's experienced in soccer, all things necessary to fill the role that we talked about, which is being the face of United States soccer on an international level. So I think he fills that well. And I love Brian Mcbride. I remember when Brian Mcbride got a big cut on his forehead once and was bleeding down his face, bleeding all down his face, and just tried to keep playing in the game. It was one of the best early soccer moments I have in my memory from Brian Mcbride. I think he's tough as nails. I think he's a guy that really wants success for the United States. 30 goals and 95 caps. I really think that this is a solid hire. Now, the worry here for Brian Mcbride and the men's national team, the worry here is he's never managed a club. He's never been in this type of role before, so it could be something that's overwhelming to him. And what I have to say about that is we're just going to have to trust that the United States men's national team made the correct decision. Now, honestly, I don't know why I'm saying that we should trust they made the right decision. We've watched the United States men's national team step on their own toes every single year since they made the quarterfinal, the team that Brian McBride was on all the way back in 2002. We've seen bad hires. We've seen bad decisions. And although they found success in the World Cup, I think that success has been mitigated. I think that success has been minimized at the World Cup level, especially with the way the domestic league has grown and how much money is put into soccer in this country, how much youth participation has grown in this country, the development of the Latino population in the United States. All these contributing factors, to me, should indicate that a country starts to do better in world competition. And instead, the United States missed the World Cup in 2018. So all those events stacking on top of each other, you look at the bad parts of Brian McBride, which that he does not have, I think, the requisite resume for this job, perhaps. Resume playing, sure, but in terms of management, he's a guy that you're pretty sure is able to do the job, but he does not have experience in that field, right? They've been in sales their whole life, but they've sold luxury items. They've never sold bank accounts, right? It's one of those things. You have to take a jump. You have to take a risk. You have to trust that he has the ability to do those things he has not proven to do before. And you have to trust that he's the right face of the United States men's national team program. I'm going to go ahead and trust it. Why? Because I like Brian McBride that much. I mean, I listened to his press conferences and all those quotes leading into how he wants to run this United States team, this United States program. I'm in. I think he's going to do a good job. I hope he's going to do a good job. And frankly, we really have no other choice other than to hope and pray that this was the right decision. It'll be an interesting time for Brian McBride. Qualifying is coming up. I think if there's any change in manager, which there's been some slight rumblings of Greg Berhalter, current United States men's national team coach, being replaced, if that's going to happen, it needs to happen soon. It needs to happen now, probably needs to happen before the summer. That's a type of change that needs to be made sooner rather than later. They need to stick with somebody for an entire cycle, find them, believe in them, and like them. I think Greg Berhalter could be that guy, but it's been some disappointing results recently in terms of international play for the United States. I hope everything works out. I mean, that's kind of where you got to live as a sports fan, right? On occasion, you just need to have some hope and hope that the right decision was made. But I can tell you, after 2020 or 2021, after this next World Cup cycle, we really could look back of the bringing on of Brian McBride as a mistake for the United States men's national team. I'm not sure I trust management. I'm not sure I trust leadership. But the talent's there. The talent is certainly there for the United States. In fact, there's a really talented player who's taking a very similar path to the prodigy Pulisic, who was bought out by Chelsea for a huge transfer fee and is the face of United States soccer. I talked about this on the last show, something that we will see happen time and time again because of the development of soccer in the United States, and it appears to be happening again in Germany for Dortmund. We'll dive into that player. We'll dive into all that stuff on the other side of the break. We've got a fun show planned for you. Follow us on Twitter, GSMC_soccer. Facebook page is GSMC Soccer. Follow me on Twitter at @MoreLucas. Do all those things. Rate and review the podcast. All that helps us tremendously here at GSMC and helps me tremendously in trying to promote this wonderful podcast that I have just such a fun time doing. I'll tell you who that United States young player is. I probably mentioned his name, ruining the tease, but that's coming up on the other side of the break. Who's making noise in Germany for the United States? You're listening to the GSMC Soccer Podcast.
Are you looking to get your college football fix? Looking to get the latest news on your favorite school's team? The GSMC College Football Podcast is your ticket to all things college football. Join us as we talk college football from the national championship, the college rivalries, the bowl game, to the Heisman Trophy. To which conference is the best? We've got you covered for the Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, the Pac-12, ACC, and everything in between. Download the GSMC College Football Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
All right, big welcome back into the podcast. Gio Reyna, 17-year-old phenom, is on his way to the first team for Borussia Dortmund in Germany. Sound familiar? It should, because he has taken the exact same path through youth development, the same timing for his path through Borussia Dortmund, and now he'll be contributing for the first team just as Christian Pulisic did a few years ago. And it's exciting, because we have another major European team, a consistent appearer in the round of 16 and later of the Champions League, Borussia Dortmund, one of the premier teams in Europe. Once again, there is a player from the United States making their way through the same program. Now, this led to Christian Pulisic getting a huge transfer fee and moving on to Chelsea and being a solid contributor for them in serious matches, in Champions League matches. And it's led to Christian Pulisic being the face of the United States and nearly dragging a helpless, lifeless team all the way through the qualifying rounds. Without Pulisic, this United States team was so out of energy, was so poorly coached, was so disorganized, played with such little heart, that without that number 10, that teenager running around the pitch, the United States would have been nothing in the qualifying rounds. And what I've been saying, and why I keep mentioning 2026 as the target year for the United States, not only because you're hosting the tournament, but because of players like Gio Reyna, we will see Christian Pulisic time and time again. Why? Because the money is starting to be shown, the path is starting to be opened, the programming is starting to settle down in the United States to where youth can develop at a smaller age and then take that leap to Europe. The window is starting to open. We are going to see more and more soccer prodigies that we see all the time in a bunch of other countries all around the world. We will see more of those prodigies in the United States. I predicted that 2 years ago. Here we are again. Gio Reyna. And you've got Weston McKennie doing damage in Germany as well. We've got a PSG player, Tim Way. So that's already happening, and it's happened again. Gio Reyna. This United States team, I'm telling you, is going to be stacked with talent. This should blow you away. Gio Reyna was born on November 13th, 2002. 2002. It's absolutely insane. It's insane that he was born in 2002. It's honestly hard to fathom. He was born after, get this, Gio Reyna, this wonderful young player, getting ready to play for Borussia Dortmund on the first team, was born after Brian Mcbride, the now general manager of the World Cup, which all of us remember blood pouring down his face after getting a cut in a game. After that World Cup where the United States made the quarterfinal. It's unbelievable how time moves. Flies. Goes past us so quick. And that's why I don't think it's crazy to talk about 2026. I don't think it's insane to start talking about that, to have that conversation, to start to plan how that team is going to look. Because that is the time. That's the moment. If you want soccer to take over any of the the three major sports, I'd argue it's close to hockey. But if you count the Canadians, it doesn't count hockey. But one of the three major sports, if you want to overtake baseball, if you want to overtake basketball, if you want to overtake football, 2026 is the year. Build the momentum in 2022. You have another World Cup burst. We see that every time there's a World Cup. It gets popular, the team's exciting, the country buys in, and every league gets a bump. Every youth participation level gets a bump. It's really upsetting we missed that in 2018. It is a setback. It could be a setback that ruins this whole thing leading to 2026. Could be, but it doesn't have to be. So you're going to get the bump in 2022, ride that bump into a deep run in the 2026 tournament, which the tournament has been changed for the 2022 tournament and 2026 to a bigger field, more knockout heavy field, which favors teams that are underdogs like the United States. So you have a format that favors you in your home country when all your young players and guys like Reyna will be filtering through Europe. There will be more American prodigies, as I've kept saying, and it'll be the most talented team you've ever had. And if you can go deep in that tournament, soccer will take another bump in the country. Maybe something more happens in baseball. They're going through a cheating scandal. Ratings down 19% in the NBA across the board. Is AAU ruining that sport? We know that safety in football is being questioned. People are saying the game is too slow. There's too many commercials. The XFL is coming in, trying to replace the NFL. Could there be a hole in the sports world for a 2026 deep United States World Cup run to lift soccer in this country to another level? That is not necessarily something that I need to see happen. I love soccer the way it is right now in the country. I love all our sports. I consume them all. I adore them all. I love their time slots and the way they're featured on TV. But if you are the United States men's national team, if you're that program, and right now we're discussing them as from the view of that program, you want soccer to overtake other sports in this country. Because when that happens, the domestic league gets more popular. When the domestic league gets more popular, all those players, your domestic players, see a path to make more than just a living, but make a fortune in this sport. And that, my friends, is when elite athletes start to jump to the sport. When they see the path, when they see the stardom, when they see other examples of greatness and are inspired by it, want to pursue it, see it as a way out of some horrible situation, that's when you get the best players. Right? There's too many rich kids that play soccer in the United States. And we see this in sports across the board. This is why some of the poorer countries in the world are better at this game. Because this game is learned best with passion, with an undying energy and love for the game. And it does not need to be learned on a fancy field with an overpaid coach and an overpaid ref. It's not how this game needs to be learned. But that's how the game is taught currently in the United States. It has not reached enough out into the poor communities. Why? Because there is not a realistic path, a real feasible path to making money, to being wealthy, to being famous in the sport of soccer in the United States. If it took that jump in 2026 from a deep, deep run in the World Cup that could be led by forwards like Gio Reyna, forwards like Christian Pulisic, and great defenders, we've seen John Brooks participate. Now, how old will he be in 2026? I think he'll be mid-30s, so he'll be out. But players like that, if it takes that jump, it can overtake one of the sports, and now you're not just going to get the kid whose mom didn't want him to play football, so he goes out on the soccer field and he's a pretty good athlete. You're going to get guys, maybe not LeBron James. I think 6'8", 260 will always play the sport of basketball. But maybe a Russell Westbrook character, right? 6'3", rangy, athletic, fast, bendy, can jump out of the gym. Great hand-eye coordination, which would lead to great hand-foot coordination or eye-foot coordination if he'd played soccer from his youth. If he'd seen it as a way out of a situation, right? I mean, think about Argentina. Are they swimming in wealth in Argentina? No, but time and time again, they produce great soccer players. Now, countries like England and Germany, countries that produce great soccer players, they aren't necessarily worse off. But a lot of those players come from poorer situations, from a little bit of struggle, where they had to go out on the playground and maybe tape up a soccer ball and get 2 posts and kick it between that. I mean, that's really what makes greatness in all sports, right? A ratty net, because it's passion for the game. It's something that pushes you and drives you. Now, we've seen people that come from really happy and wealthy circumstances succeed in sports, but it's much more common to see the greatest come from struggle. It's definitely less rare to see people come from struggle and be great at something than it is to see people come from having everything and being great at something. And I think that the United States, their goal as a men's national team should be to get this sport popular enough to elevate the MLS, to make it a feasible path, a popular path to wealth and fame. And if that can happen, if they can overtake one of the 3 major sports in the year 2026, which would be their window to do it, I think the United States could launch itself into one of the top 5 soccer countries in the world. I really believe that. It's certainly possible. The money's there. We spend the money already. The athletes are there. We're dominant in every other sport that exists, essentially. So why not soccer? And, I'm really honestly tired of the excuses from people who don't necessarily follow soccer, but even those who cover soccer. Oh, the United States will just never be great at soccer. Why not? This is the United States of America. It is the biggest economy that's ever existed, the largest military that's ever been created, in the best athletic country ever, period. More great athletes have come from this patch of land, from the 48 continental states and the beautiful state of Hawaii and the chilly state of Alaska. More players in more sports that at an elite level have come out of that region, our country, this country, than any other country in the history of the world. So why on earth can't we be one of the top 5 teams in the world at soccer? Are you kidding me? The money's there, the support's there, it just needs momentum, and it needs to be run properly. And that's all I really have to say about the United States men's national team. Hopefully Brian Mcbride can get it together. Use the talent like Gio Reyna, who's about to start at Dortmund, to elevate the United States to the place where I think they should be. You're listening to the GSMC Soccer Podcast. On the other side of the break, we will have Tottenham and Liverpool recap 1-0 win for Liverpool. They continue their invincible season into the next week of the Premier League, all the way up to 61 points, are Jurgen Klopp and his boys. That comes up on the other side of the break. This is the GSMC Soccer Podcast.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
All right, Tottenham, Liverpool, biggest match of the weekend. We previewed it. Harry Kane was out. Harry Kane was missing. And I said on the show previous that Tottenham Hotspur should try to muddy up the game, play defense, allow Liverpool to control possession, take a lot of long shots, and see if you can sneak out a win. And they nearly pulled it off. So good job, Jose Mourinho, for getting the right strategy for Tottenham. And they nearly executed it. A team out of form only lost 1-0. Although they were dominated time of possession, Liverpool had a whole big 67%. I thought Tottenham did a fairly good job of trying to keep this game close, of trying to keep this game interesting. Before we dive into it more, please follow us on Twitter. GSMC_soccer with an @ in front. You all know how Twitter works. Facebook, GSMC Soccer. Like the page, comment, share, criticize, all those things. Welcome. My Twitter as well, @morelucas. You're going to find a lot of Joe Burrow stuff. Joe Burrow from Athens, Ohio. That's where I went to college. Know a lot of people down there. Congratulations to him for winning the college football national championship. You'll see a lot of Joe Burrow stuff on there. But especially once the Champions League heats up, it's going to be a lot of soccer. Just give it a follow. I'll follow back most of the time, especially if you mention that you've been listening to the podcast. Hit us up. Rate and subscribe. All those fun things. All right, Tottenham, Liverpool. Firmino in the 37th minute, the only goal from that game. And really, the only thing you can say right now about Liverpool is they're just not scoring enough goals. They're a well-oiled machine. They know how to win, but they might not have as much individual attacking talent as perhaps a Manchester City. Manchester City actually a higher goal differential, granted in one more match, but a higher goal differential on the season. Firmino is a solid number 9. I like Firmino. Mane and Salah on the wings is excellent. I just think maybe a frontline attacking player a little better than Roberto Firmino. I know it's hard to criticize the guy that just scored the goal. Would maybe elevate Liverpool to another level? I guess maybe. That's the only criticism we can come up with here, but I'm not in favor of that at all because right now Liverpool is executing as a team, and we talked about this on the last show, that this sport has proven to us time and time again that it isn't basketball. One guy does not fix it all. There's 11 players on the field. Yet, our commentary on this sport is very similar to basketball. Why? Because the superstar status is higher, right? Attacking players get all the attention. There aren't really any star defensive players outside of goalkeepers in this game. So it feels like there's only 4 players on the pitch that matter, even though all 11 are extremely crucial to success. And we talked about how there's so many great teams in the history of soccer, of football, that have had success because they are a great team, not because they have great individual talent. I think that's really important to remember if you're Liverpool, and I say stick with it. I know you haven't necessarily scored the type of goals that your points suggest you should have scored, but it doesn't matter. You're playing excellent soccer. You're playing the type of soccer that I absolutely love to play. 4-3-3, gegenpress, press high. You don't necessarily need to command possession, although you'll take it if the other team gives it. The backs move up. I love Alexander-Arnold out of the back. I just love watching Liverpool play. Right now, they are the most well-oiled machine out of any team in the world. Not necessarily the most talented, but that doesn't matter in this sport once you figure out everything that Liverpool has been able to figure out in this one. A little bit more of a deep dive into the stats. Tottenham ended up with 14 shots, only 4 of them on goal. Liverpool 1 less shot, but a whole 7 on goal. Liverpool took their time in this match. They waited for opportunities. They took them. Didn't finish as many as they thought they should have, but a 1-0 win. They walk out of there still undefeated in the Premier League. Awfully impressive. And, for Tottenham, it's starting to get worry time because they've fallen all the way to 8th place in the league right now behind Sheffield United and Wolverhampton, the Wanderers. I mean, it's not where you need to be if you're Tottenham Hotspur, especially with the type of talent that they've had on Tottenham Hotspur. You have Dele Alli. I understand that Harry Kane was hurt, but, he was there for the previous, stretch of the season. They're in 8th place. It's not like they're in 3rd place. I think there's talent on Tottenham. It just feels like they never got on the roll that I thought they'd get on. I thought they'd really taken a turn as a club, and they never really have elevated past that point. But it's just tough to see for Tottenham. They're in awful form right now. They've had a just absolutely dismal form. I'm pulling it up right now. Middlesbrough draw in the match before the loss to Liverpool, lost to Southampton, draw against Norwich City. Then they were somehow able to beat Brighton and Hove Albion. Oh, that's really impressive, the 14th team of the table. And then they lost 2-0 to Chelsea. It's been a bad stretch since December 22nd. Over the last 6 games for Tottenham, only 1 win in their last 6, only 5 points in their last 6, and that's the reason they've fallen all the way to 8th. They're the last team, though, that has a positive goal differential, so yes, they're in the upper half of the Premier League, but 8th is just not good enough for Tottenham Hotspur. Not good enough for the type of talent they have to be behind Sheffield United, to be behind Wolverhampton, to not be competing right now with Manchester United and Chelsea and Leicester City. It's just not the place you want to be if you're Tottenham. Liverpool will continue their quest for an invincible season. I think they're going to get got, though. After watching that match and seeing how Tottenham muddied it up, I think that as they compile more wins, teams are going to start to really copy that strategy, and someone's just going to get them. Someone's going to get them 1-0 one day. Liverpool's just going to miss a bunch. They'll probably dominate possession in that match, and somebody's going to get them. It might not even be one of the top 8 teams in the league. It might be an upset, but somebody will get Liverpool this year in the Premier League, because I think Jurgen Klopp really cares about winning back-to-back Champions League more than the invincible season. So I don't think he's going to throw his entire heart and soul into this thing. I think Liverpool is going to be beaten this year. By who? I don't know. You go ahead and try to figure that one out. You go ahead and try to figure out who is going to defeat Liverpool this season, but I really think someone's going to have it. That is a 5th straight win for Liverpool over Tottenham Hotspur. It's been a pretty dominant run that includes a Champions League match for Liverpool, 1-2-0. Last time Tottenham didn't lose against Liverpool all the way back on February 4th, 2018, which is nearly 2 years ago. And it's just disappointing. Disappointing if you're a Spurs fan. I know they're actually pretty popular in the United States. I knew a couple Spurs fans growing up in Ohio. They're that team that you always feel like can win the league, but they aren't a front runner. So it's really easy to kind of latch on to them. As an American that never grew up in England or has even been to the country, I can see why you would latch onto that squad. But they've just been disappointing. Another disappointing showing over the last 6. Not necessarily disappointing against Liverpool. I thought that was the best effort Tottenham could have gave in that match. But just sad to see. Good to see for Liverpool, though. Jurgen Klopp continuing his run. How about Real Madrid? They won in thrilling fashion in penalties, although a 0-0 match until that penalties. We'll talk about what that match means for La Liga. Obviously, a trophy awarded to Real Madrid. That's big news. But forget the trophy. We want to talk about what it means for the really, really tight and really exciting La Liga race. That comes up on the other side of the break. You're listening to the GSMC Soccer Podcast.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Follow us on Twitter at GSMC_soccer, Facebook GSMC Soccer. Give it a like, give it a follow, all those fun things. At More Lukas, my name's spelled MOORELUKAS. That's my Twitter. Would love to see you follow me there. Love to have a conversation about anything in the world of sports. I could maybe talk high-level tennis. Don't ask about, player 10 to 100, I suppose. We could dive into golf a bit, but that's more golf strategy. I know the top players, but every other sport, we'll dive right in and have a nice conversation. Let's talk about Real Madrid. So Real Madrid wins in penalties in the Super Cup, despite a 115th minute red card by Valverde. And they dominated this match possession-wise. 24 shots, only 5 of them on goal for Real Madrid. But that was 9 more shots than Atletico was able to pull out. And Madrid had 65% possession in this match. And it just was amazing that they couldn't score. It just felt like Real Madrid had a lot of opportunities for goals, or at least they should have made more good opportunities for goals in this one. I felt like Real Madrid was the team that deserved to win. I'm glad they won in penalties to pick up this trophy. Atletico was happy with the 3-2 upset of Barcelona in the semifinals. Fun match to consume. It doesn't mean much to me. I could really care less who wins this type of match. But yeah, it's a fun one if you're a Real Madrid fan picking up a trophy. And it really paints an interesting picture when we look at La Liga, because we had an opportunity to see Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Atletico Madrid play each other essentially right before we kick off the second round of La Liga. And right now, just an update on the league standings. Barcelona, 5 straight matches unbeaten, as well as Real Madrid. Atletico just took a loss in the last one to Real Madrid. But Barca and Real Madrid halfway through the La Liga campaign. This is just so fun when things like this happen. When 2 of the most famous clubs in the world, 2 of the best clubs of the decade, I'd argue Real Madrid 1, Barcelona 3 or 2, they're both at 40 points, tied atop La Liga with half the season to go. That means it's going to be a lot of fun down the stretch. We're going to have a lot of fun down the stretch in La Liga. So what does that match on Sunday mean for Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid? Well, I think it shows that Atletico just doesn't necessarily have the talent to compete with Barcelona, to compete with Real Madrid at the top of the league. I just don't see them being competitive. with Real Madrid and Barcelona. So I think the first question or first thing that we learn from the Spanish Super Cup final on Sunday, at least to me, is that Atletico won't be able to win La Liga this year. They might finish second. Maybe a team falls off between Real Madrid and Barcelona, but I just don't see Real Madrid and FC Barcelona falling below Atletico Madrid this year. I think Atletico Madrid will fall where they normally do, in third or second in this league. I think that is pretty much a lock to happen. It's because it's pretty much happened for the last 8 years. It's not necessarily a hot take that I'm saying that, but from watching the match on Sunday, I think Atletico is a team that's going to be there. They're going to cause fits when they play Real Madrid and FC Barcelona in the second half. They might be the team that ends up deciding who wins La Liga this year, but they won't be the team that wins it this year. They just don't have the talent right now to compete with Real Madrid and FC Barcelona, and they don't have that team form that you really want to see when you're at least short in terms of talent. It's just, a lot of people think Atletico is this close to Real Madrid, and I've read a few articles that there's very little space between Atletico and Real Madrid, but to me, there's a lot of space because Real Madrid continuously wins these close matches, and there's reasons you do that. They're a better club. They have a better culture, and I think they have better players, bottom line. I just think Real Madrid is better than Atletico Madrid. I don't think that's necessarily a hot take to say that Real Madrid is better than Atletico Madrid. I just don't think Atletico is that close to FC Barcelona and Real Madrid. We take a look at some more of the statistics from this one. Obviously, I mentioned the shots, 24 shots for Real Madrid, 15 shots for Atletico Madrid, 23 fouls on Atletico, 20 on Real. I won't go through all these stats, but it was pretty much even the rest of the way. 6 saves needed from Real Madrid. Real Madrid. Oh, man. But just there's more talent on this Real Madrid team. Isco, Modric, Toni Kroos coming up the right side. Valverde, I like. Ramos on the back line. Courtois in goal. And it's just better than Morata. It's just better than João Felix. It's better than Thomas. It's better than Herrera. It's better than Correa. I just think there's more talent for Real Madrid than Atletico Madrid. And I think that's pretty obvious. But Real Madrid, what do we learn from them in this Spanish Super Cup final? Because we learned something about them as well. We learned something that's disturbing if you want to beat Barcelona, who has Lionel Messi, and you no longer have Cristiano Ronaldo. I know he's been gone for a while, but he's just a guy that's not going to be there. He's not going to be effective. He's not a guy that's going to be able to contribute at a high level for Real Madrid because guess what? He's at Barcelona. So Real Madrid needs to find that goal scorer, find that player who's able to put the ball in the back of the net consistently, and they don't have it right now. Jovic is not cutting it. Just not cutting it. And I don't think there's anybody on this roster that will be able to fulfill that role. James Rodriguez, maybe, I suppose. There's nobody on this Real Madrid roster that can fill that role at the top of the 4-3-2-1, be the guy that gets the ball and puts it in the back of the net. They need someone like that. They need someone to be the consistent goal scorer if they hope to win La Liga this year. Because when times get tough, when things get rough, Barcelona always is able to lean on Messi. Can always lean on him. Argentina did the same thing in the 2014 World Cup. Every time it got difficult, every time it felt like you weren't going to be able to create anything, you weren't going to be able to get any momentum, you weren't going to be able to get any goals, Messi was there to save the day. And Real Madrid used to have Ronaldo there to save the day. No longer. And I think that they have a really interesting player in their sights. We'll dive into that on the other side of the break. But to me, what we learned in recap from this 0-0 all the way through the 120 minutes into penalties, what we learned from this one is Real Madrid is a better team. I think they are much farther ahead from Atletico than a lot of people want to make it out to be. I think Atletico tries much harder in these matches. I think Real Madrid is just better, and it's not a hot take either. I think Atletico could be the spoiler, though. I think they're going to play real close to Real Madrid and Barcelona. They'll be interesting. They'll be there in third. And Real Madrid won't win La Liga. Although I did say on the last show Real Madrid's a favorite, but after watching their inability to score, if they make one move, they'll win La Liga. One move. What is that move? Who is that player? Well, there's some rumors circulating. Real Madrid has his eyes on him. I would love to see it. I think it's a move that would really help Real Madrid, and I think it would seal what should be the most fun title race in world soccer this year. It's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the GSMC Soccer Podcast.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's GSMCpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back into the GSMC Soccer Podcast. Give us a follow on Twitter at GSMC_soccer. I mentioned at the top of the show that I couldn't do the podcast yesterday because my neighbors have been working on apparently a 5-day, 6-day project now of drilling into the wall. I'd really love to know what's going on over there. Running theory right now is they're building a ladder for cats. They're building a very large structure for cats to be able to run around and hide. Now, this is a personal dream of mine for a future home. Right? We've got a couple cats. Love the cats. They just don't have enough space to jump and roam around and be true cats, like climb things. That's my goal in life, is to get just this massive wall of just a maze, a kitty maze, and there's places to lay and there's toys. I think that would be just awesome. So I'm hoping that's what they're building over there. And if you hear a brr, 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 it's them. So I apologize for that moving forward, but we're already halfway through this thing. We're going to finish it out. No way. No way we're stopping. Cannot stop at this point. But hopefully they can hear me through the wall because it's actually pretty thin. They're like, oh, that guy actually, it sounds like he's doing a podcast over there. Maybe we should wait about 30 minutes, then drill into the wall. But again, not chagrining them. They're not bad people for drilling into the wall. I get it. You know, I'll probably be drilling into the wall. I just got a new TV here. There you go. You can hear it. There's the drilling. There's the drilling. Someone needs to be drilling the net for Real Madrid. Let's go ahead and move on to it. That player I mentioned before the break, who is it? It's a star right now for a team that's competing actually at the top of one of the other top 5 major leagues. That is RB Leipzig's Timo Werner. The German international has been rumored to be in the sights of Real Madrid. And honestly, they're a team that can throw any amount of money at him. And Timo Werner is the perfect player. I mean, the perfect player to fit on this Real Madrid squad. He's young. He's pacey. He has decent size at 5'11". He's got a knack of finding the net. And if he gets fed at the level Real Madrid is able to feed their attacking players with Modric and Isco and Kroos and Casemiro and Valverde, if those guys have Timo Werner up top, Real Madrid's going to win La Liga. They are, by far, would pass Barcelona in my eyes. And I think that they would be able to seal up this league because Timo is just an excellent player who's been in the eyes of Bayern Munich for a long, long time. He was at Stuttgart for 95 appearances very early in his career. Then he joined RB Leipzig. In his last 110 appearances, he's got 68 goals, and he's got 11 goals in 29 appearances for the German national team, which he started playing in 2017. This kid's excellent. He was a young star. He is going to be worth a lot of money to Real Madrid, and they should pay whatever they need to pay to get him on their roster because he is the type of guy you plug right in and is excellent immediately. I think he's a guy that fits so well into the formation that's run by Zinedine Zidane and Real Madrid. I think he fits the attitude of Real Madrid. To me, Timo Werner is a perfect answer. The kid from Stuttgart, Germany, which actually have family from Stuttgart, 23 years old. He can be your answer at striker for the next 5-6 years. This is this would be perfect for Real Madrid. It gets me excited because we've seen the German internationals have success with Real. We see Toni Kroos on the roster right now. Now, does it put you in the best favor with the German national team by going to Spain? No, it doesn't actually. The German national team wants to see you playing for Bayern Munich. It's more of a sure thing if you're playing for Bayern Munich as their striker to be the guy that's the striker for the German national team. Why does it work that way? I don't know. But it's honestly better than playing for Leipzig because Leipzig is kind of disliked in the Bundesliga. It's because they're run by a corporation. It's an awkward thing right now in the Bundesliga with RB Leipzig. I don't understand it, but I've heard people just don't like Leipzig. They don't like that they're in the league. They don't like the way they're run. They don't like how they came out of nowhere. It feels unearned. It feels bought. It feels not real. It feels even less authentic than Bayern Munich, who Bayern Munich came out of, obscurity from being banned in World War II because they were the only club that allowed Jewish people to participate. From that all the way to the most dominant club in German football history. That feels way more authentic than what's happened with Red Bull Leipzig. They don't even like to be called Red Bull Leipzig because they know it has that stigma attached to it. So if you're Timo Werner, either go to Bayern or go to Real Madrid. And if you don't want to go to Bayern or you don't think you fit well because Lewandowski's probably going to be scoring goals there till the end of time, then right now, Real Madrid, the best club in the world, the most Champions Leagues, the most money to throw around, beautiful stadium, living in Spain. This is a move that Timo Werner should really make. I hope that he wants to make it. I hope Real Madrid makes it a reality because it's a match made in heaven for Real Madrid and their pursuit of a Spanish championship. We have other transfer news to get into as well in our final segment of the show, this time switching to MLS. We are rolling closer and closer to the start of the Major League Soccer season, and there's a big team in Los Angeles looking at a big player to try to fill a hole left by Zlatan Ibrahimovic. We'll dive into that on the other side of the break. You're listening to the GSMC Soccer Podcast.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Big welcome back in. Give us a follow on Twitter at GSMC_soccer, Facebook, the GSMC soccer page. Give it a like. Share the podcast. Do everything you can do to spread the word about this show. Let's dive in to some more transfer news. We just talked Timo Werner before the break. Earlier in the show, Brian Mcbride and the United States men's national team actually got pretty heated there for a second. We talked Tottenham Hotspur against Liverpool. Liverpool continues their undefeated season. Excellent to watch from them. We discussed Real Madrid-Atletico, and that led us into a conversation about Timo Werner and a hole that Real Madrid has that needs filled, that Timo would fit perfectly into, and I now want to talk about another perfect fit. And this really pains me to say, and I really didn't want to do the segment like this. I wanted to do the segment as in I'm crushing this move. It's a move that I did not want to see make. I wanted to come from that. Because Chicharito, Javier Hernandez, the Mexican international, the very famous Mexican international, will be playing at LA Galaxy, most likely. Still need to get some official things done, but it looks like it's going to happen. It looks like Chicharito will be the guy that fills in at the top for LA Galaxy in place of now AC Milan player Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who, after I criticized him, got his first goal. I don't think it means much. I don't think we should look too closely into what Zlatan was able to do by scoring one goal. I don't think it's something we need to read too much into. He's going to score some. He's Zlatan Ibrahimovic, but I just don't think it's a good move for his career. But Chicharito, right now it's Sevilla in Spain. Yeah, it's fine. You know, it's cool. And the reason I really didn't want to support this move is because, I'll be honest, I don't like Chicharito at all. Not saying he's a bad guy, never met him, don't know his family, don't know anybody that knows him, so I can't really comment on his character, whether he lies or anything like that. I'm not saying he's any of that. What I'm saying is, he is the most overrated player I have ever seen. And it's not because of what people do in the leagues he's played in, but it's because of the unbelievable, undying passion of the Mexican national team and their fans. It's absolutely crazy, the type of fans they have, the level of fans they have, how passionate their fans are. And it's frankly annoying a lot because I think the Mexican national team fans have a really misplaced idea of who they are. They really do believe that they are one of the best 5 soccer countries in the world right now. They believe that. They think they should be in the semifinals / winning the World Cup every single year. And I just can't stand that level. It's like a guy that looks in the mirror at 5'8" with an ugly beard and says, yeah, I look amazing. Like, just, admit it, right? Lean into it. Yeah, I've gained a little weight, Understand who you are. Understand where you are. Understand your expectations. Understand what you are capable of. Now, you can say, well, Lukas, didn't you just say the United States should be one of the top 5 national teams? Yeah, I said should. And the Mexican fans can say that same thing, but I don't think it. I don't say it. I don't tweet it. But, if you're a Mexican national team fan, I'm serious. Most of these guys I've met, I've played soccer with a lot of these guys, and they are thoroughly convinced that it's a fluke that Mexico hasn't won a World Cup yet, that they haven't made a semifinal yet. Guys, it's not a fluke. You're not Germany. You're not that. You're not Argentina. You're not Uruguay. You're not Brazil. You're not any of those teams. You're not Spain. That's not who you are. You're a good / great CONCACAF team who maybe, if everything came together perfectly, can make a run at the semifinal. Maybe. If everything came together right. Because there's not the same level of financial resources and financial backing as there is in the United States. That's why I think the United States ceiling is higher than Mexico's. I think Mexico is getting pretty close to their ceiling as a soccer program, as a soccer power. So that, from the Mexican fans, combined with them consistently talking about Chicharito and how great Chicharito is and how Chicharito is one of the best strikers in the world, and Chicharito this and Chicharito that, and Chicharito, and I just hear that name enough, and it just grinds my gears. It just makes me really, frustrated. I'm like, listen, he's not Messi. And I've heard, I seriously have had conversations with fans of the Mexican national team who think Chicharito and Messi, their only difference is situation. That was said to me about 5 years ago. I'm sure he doesn't think that now, but Lordy, that's crazy. Chicharito is a decent striker in the world stage. He's solid. A backup at most places. He's going to come in, he's going to get you some goals. Good scorer off the bench. Never a star. Never a guy you want to rely on. Not at the highest levels of soccer. Not at the highest levels of international soccer. I get he's got 52 goals and 109 appearances, but he's really good at slotting in a couple goals against Trinidad and Tobago, slotting in a couple goals against Costa Rica. But every time there's been a big game that I've watched with Chicharito involved in, Javier Hernandez has seemed to disappear, right? So I get the combination of annoying fans about their team because they don't understand who they are. They're like Cleveland Browns fans. Every single year, they're going to go 10-6. Every single year, they're going to go 10-6. It's that combination of unaware of who you are and what you are and where you belong in the world stage at the international level. It's that combined with a player that I don't like his style of play. I think he's too small. I think he flops too much. I don't like his attitude on the pitch. Again, not saying he's a bad person or anything. This is sports talk through and through. Combine that with that and then them telling me he's the greatest striker possibly in the world. at points throughout my life. That combination made me want to have the take that Chicharito going to the LA Galaxy is bad for the LA Galaxy. But here's the truth of the matter. Chicharito is good enough to be a good striker in the MLS. 28 goals in 54 appearances at Bayer Leverkusen. 37 goals in about 103 appearances at Manchester United. I'm telling you all that because that's good enough to have some success in the MLS, to be an effective striker for the LA Galaxy. Will he be Zlatan Ibrahimovic? No. No, he won't. Will he be just as popular? Yeah. LA Galaxy is really trying. So LAFC, it seems to be reaching out to, Hollywood, Los Angeles, that type of Los Angeles. And yes, they've picked up a lot of Latino fans. A lot of Latino fans live in Southern California. But the Latino fans are even more connected to the Los Angeles Galaxy. So bringing in a guy that's as popular, that sells as many jerseys, that's as talked about, that's as overrated as Javier Hernandez, as Chicharito, can only be good for LA Galaxy from a business perspective. And I think good business is good business. And not only does it help from a business perspective, but he's a good enough striker. And I think he fits well into what LA Galaxy is doing. He's not Zlatan Ibrahimovic. He's 5'9". Zlatan is much bigger. He doesn't play the same way. He doesn't play the same style. But he'll fit well into what LA Galaxy is doing. And LA Galaxy is focused on developing the youth. And I think Chicharito is a solid 31-year-old that'll fit well in the league. Why waste your time at Sevilla where you only got 1 goal in 9 appearances? Come to the United States, play for a team that has a huge Mexican fan base, develop your name, become even more overrated, right? Make me even more frustrated when people talk about you, and come to the MLS and score some goals. Not even going to be close to Carlos Vela. Carlos Vela, I think, is twice the player as Chicharito. And there would be fans of the Mexican national team that would assassinate me for that take. But I think it'll be proven out at LA Galaxy because Zlatan wasn't as good as Carlos Vela. And I know Chicharito is no Zlatan Ibrahimovic. I know he's no Zlatan Ibrahimovic. But I think it's an interesting move for LA Galaxy. I think it's a move that they should try. And I'm excited to see it. I'm excited for the MLS to get rolling. It's been a long time since there's been some relevant MLS, it feels like. And I'm excited for the beginning of the season. I think it's the best part of the season is the beginning of the MLS campaign, especially with all the new expansion teams. There's great crowds. It's got a lot of momentum. Comes at a good time of year right before baseball starts after football. There's a little hole. I love the start of the MLS season. That's coming soon, and hopefully Chicharito will be a part of it so that I can root against him, and maybe some of you can root for him. Let me know what you think about Chicharito at MoreLukas, MoreLukas. Follow this podcast on Twitter at GSMC_soccer, and give a like on the Facebook page at GSMC Soccer. Please rate and subscribe to this podcast. Leave a review. It helps us out so much. You've been listening to the GSMC Soccer Broadcast. This episode is a cast of some kind, and I hope you enjoyed it. It's been presented by the GSMC Podcast Network. Make sure you check out all the other shows presented by the great folks at GSMC, and I will see you, actually, tomorrow. We'll see you then. This has been the GSMC Soccer Podcast.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Soccer Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.